Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, now here I am with another Spider-Man review. And next up, or my next Spider-Man review, now here I am with a review for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So if you watched my review for the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, I just really did I really did just go off on a really big tangent with that movie because I just really, like I said in that review, I just really just have really hated these two Amazing Spider-Man movies because yeah, like I said, these movies were just made for Sony to just retain the rights to Spider-Man, and that's really just the only reason that Sony really made these, and that is really how these films really do come off to me, and just yeah, and I just really don't like these films. I mean, I talked about in my review for the first movie how I just really didn't like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker or Spider Man. I didn't like how the first film just repeated just so much stuff from the first Raimi film, and yeah, and I just really just went on and on about just why I really hated the first film and just why I really don't like these two Amazing Spider-Man films at all. So yeah, so I really just really riffed to death about why I hated the hated these two movies in my review for the first film. So yeah, so I'll try not to go off on a tangent as much in this review, but yeah, I still do have quite a lot to say about this movie. All right. So yeah, so as I said, I really didn't like the first movie, and yeah, and as far as this movie goes, I do not like this one either. In fact, I like this one even less. Yeah, just oh gosh, I mean, while this film it doesn't really repeat as much from the Raimi films as the first film did, it still really does have just so many problems with it. Yeah, yeah, just yeah, where do I even begin with this film? I really don't like the film, and yeah, and out of all the Spider-Man films that have been made, I really do say that this one is the worst. Yeah, and I know I'm not alone in saying that. There's been a lot of people that have said that this is the worst Spider-Man movie of them all. Yeah, people have even said that they think this one is even worse than Spider-Man 3. And yeah, and given that how disappointed a lot of people really were with Spider-Man 3, if they even say that this movie is worse, then that should tell you something. Yeah, even people that like the movie have even said that they do think that this is the worst Spider-Man movie. So yeah, if they even like this movie and they even think that it's worse than Spider-Man 3, I mean, like I said, just that should tell you how disappointing or how disappointed people really were with this one. I mean, just there's been a lot of people that have really said just this movie really did leave a lot to be desired, and me even I really had very low standards as far as these movies go. So yeah, so I really just well I shouldn't really say I had low standards, but yeah, I just had very low expectations with it. So yeah, so I can't even really say that this movie really did a disappoint me because I mean I really just wasn't really expecting anything from it, and I mean I can't really say that I was disappointed that I didn't really get anything out of the movie, but yeah, it's still just yeah this film just this film is just really just such a mess of just so much stuff because yeah, in this film, you just have just so much stuff going on here. The story for this film, it's not even really one story. There's a whole bunch of stories because where do I even start with this film? Because yeah, of course, you do still have a Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone reprising their roles, even a Sally Field reprising her role of Aunt May. Yeah, yeah, and just yeah, and in the film, there's just so much going on. You're kind of as you're watching it, you're just kind of saying what the hell are you even watching here? Is this some sort of a TV show where they're just you're watching a whole bunch of episodes and they're just building a whole bunch of stories, or is this a freaking movie? Because you just have so much going on. You're just okay, slow it down. This is enough. Yeah, because in the film, you do have just a whole bunch of stories going on. You have stuff going on between Peter and Gwen. There's more stuff going on between Peter and Gwen in this movie. You have new villains in the film, and you have the stories for them going on in this film. You have just like the stuff going on with like the villains, and there's like a whole bunch of stories going on with them in the film, as far as like their stories about like how they're becoming the villains and what they're going through and all this stuff. Yeah, and also in this film, like you do have, like I talked about like in the my review for the first film, how the trailer for the first film made it seem like the movie was really going to be about Peter really like learning about his parents and just learning the truth about like their disappearance. And yeah, and of course like that's not what the film wound up being. And yeah, and I didn't even talk about like I guess like the reason why we didn't get that was because like the trailer just like really didn't receive a very well reception, so they really did change the film. And so yeah, and they ended up like moving Peter really finding the truth about his parents into this film. So yeah, so in this film we got that going on with like Peter learning about the truth about his parents. And yeah, yeah, and just you just have like a whole bunch of other stuff going on throughout the film. Like it's really just like just like it really becomes like very hard to follow, and it just gets so jumbled up, like you really like just don't know really what to follow. So yeah, so that is really like this film's main problem. Just like you have like so many stories and subplots going on in the film, like you really just can't keep up with everything going on. Yeah. So yeah. So in this film, like I said, you do have Toby Maguire. You have Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Sally Field reprising their roles as Peter, Gwen, and Aunt May in the film. And yeah, and you do have like some new cast members in this film. Like in this film, you do have Jamie Foxx, you have Dane DeHaan, and you have Paul Giamatti in a very small role. Well, you have Colm Feore, and you have Felicity Jones, and yeah, some like other cast members. So you do have like like a newer cast in this film. Like there are a lot of like new cast members in this film than there were in the first one. Yeah, in this film, the villains for the movie, in like in the beginning of the film, like in Spider-Man's opening battle, like we do see him like fighting with Rhino. But yeah, but that's very brief, and Rhino really is not like really like a main villain of the movie. Yeah, and in the film, there's also Electro, and you also have Harry in this movie. Yeah, and Harry, of course, like in this film, like he winds up becoming the Green Goblin. Yeah, yeah. And as far as like the new cast members go, I mean, as far as Jamie Foxx as Electro, I guess I'll start with him. As far as he goes, I guess he does well enough. Well, yeah, I guess like he does do like a pretty good like in the beginning when he's just Max Dillon, because yeah, as the film starts, when we first see Max Dillon, it shows how he's just like this really like socially awkward kind of geek who really doesn't have any friends. And yeah, we just like see that even like the coworkers really don't really like see him as he's like really worth much. So yeah, so he's really just like kind of a loner as the movie starts. And I guess Jamie Foxx is like a just fine. I mean, I did think that Jamie Foxx was kind of like an unusual choice for to play like a character in a Spider-Man film, just because like he's such a famous pop star. I really just found it very unusual to see him be cast in a comic book film. But yeah, in the beginning, like when we do see him as Max Dillon, I do think that he is overall pretty good. I mean, they do like do a good job of like transforming him and just like this nerd, because yeah, we see him like he has like very thin hair, he wears glasses, his teeth are like kind of a mess. So yeah, so I guess like they did do good at really like making Jamie Foxx look that way as the film starts. Yeah, when he becomes Electro, though, I feel that that's really like where the problems are, because just I feel that like his appearance in the film, it just looks like very over the top. And yeah, I just really think that he just really doesn't look all that intimidating, or even like anything like to very take seriously. He just looks like kind of like silly with his appearance in the film, and as well as just like when he actually does like a when he is actually like against Spider-Man, just like his motivations for like hating Spider-Man and all this stuff, it's like really weak. Like it really makes him like becoming a villain seem very forced when we do like see like why he wants to kill Spider-Man and all this stuff. So yeah, I really do feel that pretty much when he turns into Electro, that's pretty much like when everything really just goes downhill for him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As far as Harry in the movie, in this movie, Harry is played by Dane DeHaan. I mean, I did find the story with Harry to be kind of interesting because in the film, like we do learn that like af- like we see that Norman is like dying from some sort of disease, and he tells Harry that the disease is genetic. So pretty much like throughout the film, like Harry is really like trying to find a way to cure his disease, so he'll to save his life. But and yeah, but then like it takes a different turn, like because after Spider-Man like does not want to help Harry out, that is kind of like where things really do go downhill for Harry as well. Just because I really don't like Harry's reason for like being against Spider-Man and stuff, and even like at the end of the film when we like do see him as the Green Goblin, just that really just takes away all his credibility. So yeah, so I really did like the story of James Franco's Harry in the Raimi movies against Spider-Man a lot more because he has more of a reason to actually hate Spider-Man. He has a better motivation for it, and we do see the story like progressing throughout the entire trilogy. So I really do like the story with Harry in the Raimi trilogy a lot more than in this movie. Yeah. And in this film, of course, like we also do have like the stuff going on between Peter and Gwen because yeah, of course, like in the previous film, like I said, Count Stacy when he was dying made Harry promise to keep away from Gwen so she'd be safe. And so yeah, so pretty much like throughout the film, like as we do see Peter and Gwen, like just their relationship really doesn't go anywhere because we do see how Peter really is like really trying to keep his promise to Captain Stacy, but it is hard for him because he cares about Gwen. So yeah, so in this film, like nothing really does advance the relationship with Peter and Gwen. Just they don't get any closer. So yeah, so particularly in this film, this is why this is really like what doesn't make the relationship between Peter and Gwen any better than the relationship between Peter and Mary Jane in the Raimi trilogy. Because yeah, I mean the relationship in this film it just really just seems like the exact same thing. How it's just an on-off relationship. So so yeah, in the film, like just Peter and Gwen's relationship, it doesn't advance anywhere in this film, and um, and given like what we do get at the end of the film, like if I just really don't find it really just it really just does show like this relationship was like pretty much wound up being like useless to these films. So that really is just kind of like how well, yeah, that is pretty much like the really the main problems with the film. Just like villains have weak motivations, the relationship with Peter and Gwen doesn't go anywhere, and yeah, and you just have like so much stuff going on throughout the film. So yeah, so that is something that really just makes this film just like kind of just like an overloaded mess, and yeah, a lot of the stuff really doesn't work. Now, is there anything that I like about the film? Well, I guess I do overall like the Spider-Man suit in the film more than I did in the first film. I just talked about in my review for the first one how the Spider-Man suit it just really didn't look right. In this film, they did like improve the suit. Like it does look more like how the suit in the Raimi trilogy did, though it still is different. Like the biggest difference I think is like the mask because yeah that is like kind of like my only complaint with the suit. Well, there's something that I don't like about the suit is the mask because yeah, it's particularly like the eyepieces. Like rather than like looking like being like sort of like triangular shaped like they were in the Raimi trilogy, the eyes are like more round and they're bigger and it really just looks kind of goofy. So yeah, that is something that I don't like about this suit is just like how big the eyes and the mask are. Yeah, and another complaint that I do kind of like have about the new suit is they don't even acknowledge that it is a different suit. Like I just am finding. I just like felt like kind of bothered with that. How just Peter's wearing a new suit and it's not even like acknowledged why he changed suits. So yeah, so that is like kind of a gripe that I do have with the film, yeah. And the music in the film also really isn't as good as it was in the first film. Yeah, James Horner didn't return to compose the music for this film. In this film, the music was by just like a Hans Zimmer, Pharrell Williams, and a few other guys. Yeah, and the music really just doesn't sound as good because, yeah, I talked about like how the music in the first film it really did sound like pretty good. Like I did like just kind of like how it really did sound like really like epic and just like it really did sound like really good for like a fight, like a battle, like battle scenes and everything. So yeah, and it really and in this film like the music really does have like more of a dramatic tone to it, and it just really doesn't sound as good. Yeah. So yeah, so I can just really like go on and on about like everything that is like that I don't like about the movie. So, but yeah, like I said in my review for the first film, like if I were to sit down talking about that stuff, like this review would probably last 2 hours. So yeah, so I really won't like really like go on about that a whole lot more. But yeah, so yeah, but yeah, I'll just say that like yeah, the problems in this film are like more apparent than they were in the first film, and it's not really just because like it's it really just comes off as a Sony making it to keep the rights to Spider-Man, like I was talking about in my review for the first one. But yeah, you just have like so much stuff going on throughout it. It really is just hard to keep track of it. So yeah, so it really just has like a whole bunch of bad ideas and weak payoffs and all this stuff. So yeah, so like I said, I really do find this to really be the worst Spider-Man film. Um, even worse than the first one because yeah, I didn't even like give the first movie that good of a rating. But yeah, even like people that do like it have even said it's the worst, and they even say it's worse than Spider-Man 3. So yeah, so like I said, that should tell you something right there. So yeah, so I would probably give this movie 2 stars out of 4. All right. Okay, so yeah, so I think I've talked about this enough. So I'll just go through the premise of the movie. So the movie opens up with basically the same scene that opened up the first film, but it's from a different perspective. Yeah, it still opens up with Peter's parents dropping him off to stay with Uncle Ben and Aunt May as they go do something that they didn't say. But yeah, this time the perspective changes. Like in the first film, the scene was through the perspective of Peter. This time, the perspective is pretty much through the premise of Peter's dad because it does show how Peter's dad Richard is recording a video message to explain the disappearance, and then after Peter's parents drop him off at Uncle Ben and Aunt May's. It shows how Richard and his wife Mary are on a private jet, and as he is really trying to download the video message, then it shows that their jet is like hijacked by some sort of assassin, and then Richard and Mary do fight the assassin, but yeah, but in the fight, like they end up getting injured, and eventually, the plane just ends up crashing down, supposedly killing them. I say supposedly because of something that I'm going to be talking about towards the end of this review. Yeah, yeah, and then it cuts to the present day, and it is set 2 years after the events of the first film, and it shows how Peter is still fighting crime as Spider-Man, and it shows how he is fighting against a criminal, Alexei Sivich, who aka the Rhino. So yeah, I'll just call him Rhino. So yeah, Peter is fighting with the Rhino, and then he eventually does apprehend him. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, the Rhino is played by Paul Giamatti, and yeah, and this is something that I feel is like kind of disappointing because. Paul Giamatti as the Rhino, like Paul Giamatti as a villain in a Spider-Man film, and yet he barely gets any screen time. Like I said, like the movie just starts with him, and then of course, like we do have what happens like at the end of this movie. But yeah, I'll talk about that when I get there. Yeah, and it shows how Peter, Gwen, and like pretty much their high school class is graduating. Eating, yeah. And then yeah, then throughout the movie, like because the promise Peter made to Captain Stacy about Gwen, like throughout the film, he's just having visions of Captain Stacy watching him, and kind of just reminding him about the promise. Yeah, and throughout the film, it just like yeah, like I said, just Peter is like really just like he wants to like still be around Gwen, but because of the promise he made to Count Stacy, it does make get hard for him to do that. And then eventually, Gwen just decides to end the relationship with Peter. Yeah. And I guess I should also talk about like as Peter was doing the battle with Rhino at the beginning, he passed by Oscorp, and then like as a taxi was coming towards Max Dillon, Peter ended up saving Max, and it showed like how Max really just was not like a very like was just very socially awkward and just didn't have a lot of friends, but Peter just like really did praise Max as being like a special person and everything. Yeah. And then after that, it just showed how Max just was very like just was idolizing Spider-Man. And yeah, and it just showed like how he when he would be talking to himself, like he would like act like he was talking to Spider-Man. So yeah, so it just showed like how like very weird Max really was when we first see him in the movie. Yeah. And yeah, and then also showed like he did work for Oscorp, but yeah, he wasn't didn't really have much praise from any of the other workers at Oscorp, and just they didn't really find him really worth any a lot. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, then we also then see Harry Osborn then paying a visit to Norman. It shows how Norman was like terminally ill and dying. So like it was mentioned in the first film, yeah, this was when like we do see Norman dying, and yeah, like I said, in this film, Harry is played by Dane DeHaan, and yeah, then when he went to visit Norman, Norman was played by Chris Cooper. Yeah, and it just showed like how like they really didn't have a very good relationship because yeah, it like Norman was just telling Harry how he just like does see Harry as a stranger because Harry has so much potential because like how much of a genius he is, and Harry was just throwing all that away. And then Harry just like replied saying that Norman threw him away and just like sent him off to boarding school when he was 11 and sent him scotch on his 16th birthday and all this stuff. Yeah. And then eventually, yeah, Norman then just explained to Harry that how his disease is actually genetic and it started at Harry's age. And so then, as an inheritance, Norman then handed Harry a small device that he said contains his life's work and just said to Harry that maybe Harry could succeed where Norman failed. Yeah. Then the following day, it was reported that Norman died, and now Harry was appointed the new CEO of Oscorp. Yeah. And like I said, like throughout the film, like Harry was really just like trying to find, like just like try to find a way to um save his life to stop the disease from killing him. Yeah. Then one day at Oscorp, as Max was working to fix like an electrical problem in like an Oscorp lab, he ended up like getting shocked, and he fell into a tank of genetically electric eels, and it just showed like how he ended up like getting attacked by the eels, and was also like ended up being like electrocuted by the electrical charges. And like as he was like being like electrocuted in there, it showed the electrical charges fixed that gap in between his teeth. Like what? Like that may be like the dumbest thing I have ever seen in a Spider-Man film. How does electrical charges fix your teeth? So yeah, that's something that I don't understand. Yeah, so yeah, so then after that, Max like was presumed to be dead, but it was later on revealed that he did survive. If it just yeah, the electrical charges just mutated his body, and he like just yeah his body now like had just a glowing blue glow. Oh, and he was now basically just a living electric generator. You know, like I said, just Electro's design and appearance in this film, it really just does look really silly, and I don't like it. Yeah, yeah. Then it showed how like the movie like explained how Peter and Harry were like once again childhood friends. And then yeah, and it showed how like one day Peter arrived at Oscorp just to offer his condolences to Harry for his father's death, and it just showed how the two of them were spending time together reunited. Yeah, and it was eventually revealed how Peter's dad actually did work with Norman and Oscorp at one point. Yeah, and then Yeah, and with Harry then like just asking why Peter's father disappeared or something, then Peter really did like start to really just look into more about like why his parents may have disappeared. So yeah, from this point on, this is like how Peter was really like trying to learn more about the truth about his parents and everything. Yeah, yeah. Then eventually, Peter then like like ran into Gwen, and then like it said that he still like does want to be friends with Gwen, but yeah, Gwen like was also just explaining to Peter how she could actually earn a scholarship to Oxford University and she could move to England. But before they had a chance to discuss anything, it then showed Max as Electro just in Times Square, and he like accidentally ended up causing a blackout. So yeah, so it showed like when Max like was first mutated, he really just like really didn't know how to control the electrical charges. Yeah, and he ended up like causing a blackout in New York. And then like as the police were then like just surrounding him eventually Peter as Spider-Man and approached him, and then at first like he didn't know who Max was because he didn't recognize him with the new appearance. But then when Max told Peter who he was, then Peter was just like trying to get the police to back off, saying that Max was his friend. And as just Peter was really just like trying to talk to Max just to get him to calm down, so he wouldn't like cause any like electrical charges to hurt anyone. Then the police eventually started to open fire at him. So at this point, Max then just thought that Spider-Man had set him up just to get him to let his guard down so the police could capture him. So yeah, it was right here at this point that just Max completely turned on Spider-Man and then wanted to kill him. So yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Just his, Max's motivation for just like hating Spider-Man all of a sudden, it just feels very forced, and yeah, just it really doesn't make a lot of sense why he just goes from idolizing him to just hating him over something so small. So it just really doesn't make sense. I mean, I just felt there were a lot of different ways that they could have done this. Like maybe if like a loved one from Max, like his girlfriend or something, like was part of like an accident. Like if maybe like his girlfriend may have like been helping Max with the fix the electrical problem at Oscorp, and they both got a shot, and like they both fall into the tank of electric eels, and like if the girlfriend died and Max survived, and Spider-Man wasn't there to save them or something, then then he could blame that, like Max could have blamed that on Spider-Man or something. Like just have something going on with like there was like something going on at Oscorp or just like somewhere in the street, and then like Spider-Man arrived, like he was able to save like some people, but he didn't save Max or his girlfriend, and yeah, and the girlfriend died, but Max survived, and then Max blamed Spider-Man for what happened to his girlfriend. That would give him more motivation for hating Spider-Man rather than something so little as this. So yeah, just Electro's motivations are just really weak. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, getting back to this. Yeah, then Electro then just like fired off some electric charges at Spider-Man and ended up destroying his web shooters. Yeah. Then as he was just like throwing electrical charges all throughout the city, then eventually Spider-Man was able to um, defeat Electro and just take him out by dousing him in water, which really doesn't make sense given that it's electricity. Shouldn't this actually make him more powerful? So yeah, but yeah. So then with Electro Weekend, then he was taken again in by the police, and he was instituted in uh, Ravencroft. Yeah, yeah. Then eventually, then when Harry like looked into his father's work, then Harry then um, then like deduced that Spider-Man's blood could actually save Harry, and so then event like Harry was just trying to ask Peter to try to find Spider-Man so he could give Harry the blood, but yeah, Peter just didn't want to do it because of what happened with Dr. Connors. Peter was worried that something similar could actually happen to Harry. Yeah. Then eventually, then Peter actually did go to Harry as Spider-Man, and then he just told Harry that he couldn't give Harry his blood because it's just too dangerous. But yeah, Harry then just took it the wrong way, and he was just very frustrated with it. And he then just s- s- said that Spider-Man was a fraud since he helps people and he won't help Harry. Yeah, yeah. And then eventually, when Harry's assistant at Oscorp, Felicia Hardy, told him that there could be equipment to save him in Oscorp, or before Harry could actually do anything, the vice president of Oscorp then, and because I guess I should have mentioned that after the accident with Max, like Mencken and some other members of Oscorp, they found out about it, but they tried to cover it up, and then they tried to pin the blame on Harry for covering it up, and so as a result, then he just removed Harry as the CEO of Oscorp, and so then eventually, then Harry then went to Ravencroft, and he just made a deal with Electro to get Harry into Oscorp to get the stuff to aid him, yeah. And so then, yeah, Harry helped Electro break out of Ravencroft, and in the process, they also killed the doctor that was studying Electro, yeah. And then, yeah, then when and Harry and Electro then arrived at Oscorp, they just forced Mencken to take him to the room with where the equipment is, and then Harry then just held him, making a gunpoint, and just then it showed that there was some venom of the genetically altered spiders, which is the same stuff that was went to Peter when he got bit by the spider, and so then Harry then forced a Mencken to inject him with the venom, which he did. But then then it showed that the venom also had an effect on Harry. While it did cure him, it then just mutated his body, and then we just see him undergoing a transformation, and then it just shows that Harry then also saw a suit of armor and other equipment that Norman made, and yeah, and you can probably guess what happened here. Yeah, I'll get to this in a little bit. Yeah, then as Peter was looking more into his father's information, then Peter then eventually saw discovered an abandoned subway station that had a hidden lab inside of it. And Peter then found the message from his father that we saw at the beginning of the film. And then Richard was then just saying in the message how he had to leave because he refused to cooperate with Norman's plans to make biogenetic weapons. Yeah, yeah. So as Peter was learning about this, then eventually, then he then heard from Gwen saying that Gwen was offered the Oxford scholarship, and she is actually heading to the airport sooner than she had told him. Yeah, but then then Peter then before Gwen left, Peter then caught to her, and then he was just talking to Gwen, saying that they should go together. Yeah, but then then with Electro out, then he ended up causing another blackout in the city, and, and so as a result, then Peter then went after him. But yeah, Gwen also gave uh, um, gave an upgrade to Peter's web shooters by making them magnetic, so like uh, they couldn't be destroyed by any electrical charges. So then Peter then followed Electro to Oscorp's power plant, and so then Peter and Electro had another fight. Yeah. And I don't know. I guess it was kind of cool, but it was also kind of silly because at one point, Electro had Spider-Man pinned down to the ground, and he let out a scream that shot out an electrical charge from his mouth. Yeah. Then at one point, it showed Electro was just hitting some other power bars, and it was playing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. So yeah, so it was kind of silly, but I guess some parts of it were cool. Yeah, and so then eventually, then Gwen then arrived at Oscorp, and then just yeah, Peter gave Gwen some instructions on what to do so they could defeat Electro, and then when Peter made a whole shield out of his webs, and then he then instructed Gwen to turn on the power, and as after he did, the the webs then just like were then like were just like electrically powered or something, and then it reflected electro zaps right back at him, and it restored like power in the city, and as a result, then it just ended up like overloading Electro's body and destroyed him. Yeah, but before Peter and Gwen could actually celebrate, then Harry arrived as the Green Goblin, and oh my goodness, the Green Goblin looked absolutely horrendous in this movie. Just, oh, that prosthetic work, it just looked absolutely awful. Seriously, like, you call this a freaking Green Goblin? This just looked absolutely hideous. So, yeah, just, ugh. Yeah. But then, like, Harry then just, then after he saw Gwen, then he knew that Peter was Spider-Man, and so he then like swore revenge on Peter for refusing the blood transfusion, and so then just like saying that since he didn't care about Harry, he's gonna take away what Peter cares about. So then yeah, Harry then went after Gwen and then just took her to the top of a clock tower. But then yeah, then Peter then just was telling Harry that he was the one Harry wanted and not Gwen, and he just told Gwen to put her down. So high above the clock tower, then Harry just dropped Gwen, and then as Peter was able to grab Gwen and then to get her down on a solid surface, then Harry and Peter then fought, and then yeah, then as Gwen then was starting to fall some more, Peter then tried to like keep Gwen from falling by holding on to her with web. But then as Harry was just still like fighting with Peter, eventually it just caused the web to snap up, and then yeah, then and eventually he Harry got subdued after like some debris ended up falling, knocking Harry out. Then, as Gwen was falling down the tower, Peter then went after Gwen, and then as he shot webs to try to grab Gwen, you even saw like as the web was being shot out, it was like forming a reaching hand, which was odd. Yeah, but then yeah, then like Peter then just like as Gwen was falling down, Peter then just like was shooting his web to try to grab Gwen to save her. But yeah, the web did latch onto Gwen, but it was too late. Like Gwen ended up like falling, hitting all the way down to the bottom of the tower, and ended up hitting her head on the ground. And yeah, then that's when Gwen died. Right. So yeah, this is when Gwen wound up dying in these movies. Yeah. Then yeah, then yeah, then we just saw like Peter really trying to revive Gwen, like cradling her, and then yeah, then when he realized she was dead, he was just devastated, and yeah, and just seeing him cry like that, oh gosh, I mean, this is another reason why I don't like Andrew Garfield in the role because like when you see him cry, I just really think that he's really phoning it in. Like I really don't buy that he's actually crying. At least with Tobey Maguire, like and all the times that he cried, you did actually believe that he was really crying. Like he had tears coming down his face and all that. So yeah, so it was actually believable when Tobey Maguire would cry in the original films. But here I just really don't buy Andrew Garfield is really crying. Yeah. Yeah. And then then there was like the funeral with Gwen and just like having so much guilt for Gwen's death, Peter was just so depressed that he just ended up just like stopped being Spider-Man and just did not go out to fight crime as Spider-Man for like 6 months. Yeah, and we just saw him like always visiting Gwen's grave, and yeah, and during this like this is a shocker because they actually deleted a scene here which really should have been kept in to go along with the subplot of Peter learning about his parents because in a deleted scene, it did actually show, like, as Peter was at Gwen's grave at one point, his dad, Richard, was still alive. Yeah, yeah, because at one point, as Peter was at Gwen's grave, like, Peter's dad ended up showing up, revealing that he was still alive. And, yeah, and this, like, really, like, you just see, like, how shocked Peter was to see his father still alive. And yeah, and then he just ended up breaking down crying, which once again kind of phoned in. Yeah, and then then it just had like Peter and his father talking, and this was like just something else that really did motivate him to go back out as Spider-Man. And so I really don't know why this scene wound up being cut, because I really do feel that this would have like really been like one of the stronger scenes in the movie. So yeah, so I'll have this scene down in the description if you want to see it. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah, that this wasn't actually in the movie. Yeah. Then it showed like after Harry was defeated, he ended up being taken to Ravencroft as well, and then it showed the gentleman arriving and was visiting Harry, and they were just discussing forming their own team. So yeah, so this was something else really to kind of like build up to the start of the Sinister Six. So yeah, I talked about in the first film how there was the mid credit scene with Doctor Connors, really kind of setting up for the Sinister Six, and yeah, this was something else to set up for that. Yeah, yeah, and then they were like a then Harry then just was telling the gentleman to start with the Rhino. Yeah, then it shows how the Rhino was broken out of prison, and then it shows then how he was like just rampaging through streets in a Rhino-like mechanical suit of armor. Yeah, yeah, and then when Peter found out about this, after he was listening to like a speech Gwen made at the graduation, which was kind of similar to the stuff Peter was really going through. That really did convince him to go back out as Spider-Man. Then it showed like a kid that a Peter helped earlier in the movie. Like he just ended up just facing off with the Rhino in a Spider-Man costume. But then the real Spider-Man then arrived, and the kid just thanked him for coming back. Yeah, and then here then like and then the Rhino was charging at Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man was then just swinging towards the Rhino, and then as the right when they were about to engage, then that's when the movie ended. So yeah, so kind of a mistake to end the movie like that. But of course, like originally, like this series was actually planned to continue. Like there was like another sequel planned for this, and of course, as I just mentioned, like they were like setting up for like a Sinister Six spinoff for this series. Yeah. But of course, this series wound up being canceled later on. So yeah, so that's why like ending the film on a cliffhanger with Peter and the Rhino, well Spider-Man and the Rhino about to fight, kind of a mistake. Because yeah, I mean people were looking forward to seeing that and they didn't get to see it. Oh yeah. So this is why like people really got to be careful when they do end movies on cliffhangers, because if a sequel is planned for this to continue and it eventually winds up being canceled, then yeah, that is and it turned out being a bad idea to end the movie on a cliffhanger. So yeah, so movies really have to be very careful about ending on cliffhangers like that. But like I said, this series like wound up being canceled. Thank goodness. And yeah, and of course, like this would lead to like where we do what we see with Spider-Man now. Spider-Man then wound up being integrated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they really redeemed the character. So thank goodness for that. Yeah, but yeah, so like I said, just this movie just has so much going on. The villain motivations are really weak. Like the relationship with Peter and Gwen doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, so just there's so much stuff that is going on in this movie, and a lot of it is done very wrong. So yeah, so the problems with this one are a lot more present than in the problems with the first film. So yeah, so like I said, I definitely do say that this is the worst Spider-Man movie, and I know I'm not alone in saying that. So yeah, so like I said, I give this film 2 stars out of 4. All right. But yeah, like I said, with this one being canceled, then Sony real and Marvel really redeemed Spider-Man with like what we've seen with the 2 MCU films so far, and with the third one to come this weekend. So yeah, so while I am glad that the series is canceled and we don't have Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man anymore, I would be lying if I said that I really he wasn't actually kind of looking forward to seeing him possibly return in No Way Home alongside Tobey Maguire if these rumors for No Way Home are true. So yeah, so I will at least say that. And of course, like in No Way Home, we do have a Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro, and he does look a lot better this time. Along with, I didn't even say in the my review for the first film how we also do have Risa Font coming back as Dr. Connors or the Lizard, yeah, in No Way Home. Along with Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, and Thomas Hain Church as the Sandman from the Raimi trilogy. So this would really like bring us to where we are now with Spider-Man. So yeah, Yeah, and of course, yeah, like I said, we do have a No Way Home coming this weekend, which of course, like I am really looking forward to. So yeah, but yeah, as far as yeah, like I said, like this would like they this would lead us to where we are with Spider-Man now with the MCU. Yeah, like so I have already talked about the other two Spider-Man MCU films. I've already talked about Homecoming and Far From Home, so I'm not going to be talking about those. So if you want to hear my thoughts on those two movies, I'll have my two videos giving my thoughts on those movies down in the description. But yeah, and now of course this would lead us to what we have to come this weekend with Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, but before I do get to that, before I actually do talk about that, I still do have one more Spider-Man movie to talk about first, and I'm sure you all know which one that is. But so yeah, so I still have that film to talk about before I actually do talk about No Way Home. So yeah, so I will be talking about that movie in my next review, Spider-Man review. So yeah, first will be my next Christmas review. Then after that, then will be my review for that Spider-Man movie before I talk about No Way Home. All right, but yeah, so I guess this is all I really have to say. All right, so this is it for my review of the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.